This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. This is a discussion more for founders than core investors, but it really relates to all kinds of investors. And this is the concept of, we'll call this podcast, Take Your Chips Off the Table When You Can. Or let me say that again, take some chips off the table when you can. So one of the things we always talk about is this great divide between taking some chips off the table versus riding your winnings. And depending which investment advisor you talk to, an investment advisor will always say, ride your winnings. And they'll say when the stock went down after a couple of years, you should have taken some money off the table. And the reality of this issue of taking some chips off the table is just a very individual decision. And the reality is the amount of chips you can take off the table must be enough to make a difference. But I am a huge fan of that whenever you have too much of your net worth tied up in any one thing and you're in a good spot, if you possibly can, to take some chips off the table when it's going good, you always run the risk. If you take chips off the table, that the business then, after you took them off, performs so much better. But you have to be willing to live with that amount of that fear of missing out on the upside if you could do something where you take some chips off the table and put yourself in a very good position. And this is a very hard thing for many entrepreneurs and founders to figure out, and there's no perfect time. This is a very important answer and issue. There's no perfect time. You have to take chips off the table when you can, and when it'll seriously to risk your balance sheet and not look for the perfect moment, because that perfect moment can turn upside down in a hurry. In any event, thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Today's subject, take chips off the table when you can. And this is not an excuse to sell into a down market. That's not the idea generally. But it is to take chips off the table when you can. Most people are never sorry that they've done that. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Business Podcast.